Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good
Very good
evening to
evening
one
to
and
one
all.
and all.
I am
I am
profoundly
profoundly
overjoyed
overjoyed
to
to
take the
take the
opportunity to
opportunity to
introduce
introduce
our chief
our chief
guest of
guest of
today's
today's
webinar.
webinar.
She is
She
none
is
other
none
than
other
Dr.
than
Mrs.
Dr.
Sandhya
Mrs.
Lal
Sandhya Lal
Madam,
Madam,
Director, Ore Dressing Division in charge, Indian Bureau of Mines, Nagpur. Dr. Sandhya Lal Madam obtained graduation degree from Institute of Science, Nagpur. Further, she did her post-graduation in physics from Institute of Science, Nagpur. And she was awarded the Ramakrishna Chandurkar Memorial Gold Medal by the Nagpur University for securing the first rank in post-graduation. After post-graduation, she continued her research work at Institute of Science and she got UGC fellowship for further continuing her research work and obtained doctorate degree in physics from Nagpur University. She has a brilliant academic record and many awards and scholarships to her credit. After this, she joined Mineral Processing Division of Indian Bureau of Mines in 1985 and has worked in various capacities for last 35 years. At present, Madam is working as Chief Ore Dressing Officer, our Director in charge, Ore Dressing Division, and heading the Mineral Processing Division, Indian Bureau of Mines, Nagpur. She has a vast experience in mineral characterization and mineral beneficiation for development of process flow sheet for various ores and minerals. She has many unpublished reports, investigations to her credit. Madam undergone an international instrumental training on differential thermal analyzer in 1989 at United Kingdom. She has published and presented many technical papers in national and international conferences and seminars. Similarly, Madam also presented a paper on rock phosphate at International Mineral Processing Congress in 2012 at New Delhi. Madam is a life member of various scientific association and professional bodies like Indian Institute of Mineral Engineers and of course esteemed Indian Society of Analytical Scientists, etc. It is indeed an honor to have with us such an eminent personality, Dr. Mrs. Sandhya Lal, Director, Ore Dressing Division in charge of Indian Bureau of Mines, Nagpur, with us today. I welcome you, madam, in this forum. Over to Minal, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite our chief guest, Dr. Sandhya Lal, ma'am, Director Overdressing in Charge, Indian Bureau of Mines, Nagpur, to address the August gathering. Ma'am, please.
Very good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt greetings to the Indian Society of Analytical Scientists for arranging this webinar and giving me an opportunity. First and foremost, I uh, I am very much overwhelmed to meet all the dignitaries, the President, Dr. Chandrachudan sir, the Vice President, Nagpur chapter, Raghav Saran sir, the convener for this webinar, and he is also the chairman, I think, Nagpur chapter, Dr. Bharati, and all the other dignitaries and the people who are connected with this ISS. It is indeed a very noble gesture because in this time, since long 1 year, we are all in this world of pandemic. The entire world is going through this COVID-19 pandemic and everyone is confined to their houses, and people who are even going to their work, that's just a limited going to work and coming back. So indeed, this is a very, very noble thought and just a gesture given by this ISAS to connect people and to disseminate the technical knowledge and the scientific knowledge. So I would really appreciate the efforts which have been taken by all the people in organizing this webinar. And today we have amongst us a scientist of international repute, none other than Dr. Neeta Thakkar. She's an environmentalist, and as all of us know, she was also associated, she's the past vice president of ISAS. So everyone knows her, and indeed, we are all eager to waiting for her talk, which is on the unintentional pollutants, organic pollutants. So every one of us is excited to hear about it. So once again, I thank all the authorities, ISAS, and also Namrata Chaudhary for giving such an elaborate introduction, which I don't think I deserve that much. Anyhow, I was very much humbled by that. So I take this opportunity to thank all of you, each one of you who is associated with ISAS, and they have organized so many webinars also in the past. And so that's the way we have been scientifically and technically connected with each other, dissemination of knowledge. So thank you one and all once again, Chandrachudan sir, Raghav Saran sir, Bharti sir, Nair sir, all of you. I really thank all of you. And we all look forward to a very exciting talk by none other than Dr. Neeta Thakkar. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your encouraging words. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Preeti Mangrulkar, Assistant Professor, Chemistry Department, RCOEM Nagpur, for introduction of our today's eminent personality, Dr. Neeta Thakkar, ma'am. Ma'am, please.
Yes, thank you, Meena. Good evening, everybody. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce the guest speaker for the evening, Dr. Neeta Thakkar, madam. I had the privilege to interact very briefly with her during my NEERI days. So it's an honor and privilege to introduce her. Dr. Neeta Thakkar was a former chief scientist and head of the Analytical Instruments Division and Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, ACSIR, at CSIR NEERI. She was awarded PhD in 1977 for her work on some new benzohydrozides and related azides. Dr. Thakkar has her research specialization in environmental monitoring, environmental quality evaluation, treatment and management, analytical techniques development and instrumentation, quality assurance and quality control, with specific reference to priority pollutants. Dr. Thakkar has her contribution as a national coordinator and team member in the development of National Implementation Plan in India as a first step to implement the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants. She is a member of Special Directorate on Chemical and Waste Management for Stockholm Convention Regional Center, CSIR NEERI. She has published over 150 research papers and 10 review papers in several international and national journals. She has published a book entitled Dioxins and Furanes in 2013 and contributed chapters in various books. She has filed 3 patents for the technologies on improved water filter for removal of organochloride pesticides and water filter for removal of trihalomethanes in drinking water. Dr. Thakkar has worked for over 100 developmental and in-house projects sponsored by Government of India and other national and international agencies. She has supervised 25 students for their PhDs, MPhils, MTechs, etc. She has worked for over 50 environmental-oriented training programs and workshops sponsored by various agencies. Dr. Thakkar was an expert member of Government of India Ministry of Defence DRDO major research program on NBS defence technology under 11th 5-year program, expert member of Government of India Ministry of Defence DRDE chemical defence equipment evaluation facility, amongst various others. She has also been Vice President and Executive Committee member of Indian Society of Analytical Chemists. Dr. Thakkar is a member of editorial committee in various reputed journals, which include International Journal of Environmental Science and Technology, International Journal of Oceanography, International Journal of Science of the Total Environment, Journal of Advanced Oxidation Technologies, Journal of Current Science, etc., amongst many others. Dr. Thakkar has won several awards and accolades. She is a fellow of Maharashtrian Academy of Sciences and Institution of Chemists and life member of Institution of Chemistry, American Chemical Society, Indian Association of Environmental Management, Indian Water Works Association, Indian Society of Analytical Scientists, Indian Women Scientist Association, Indian Science Congress Association, and World Wildlife Fund. Dr. Thakkar has been a recipient of Hiyoshi Think of Ecology Award 2014 by Hiyoshi Corporation, Japan. And she is also an awardee of WHA and JAUW fellowships in 1982 and 1987, respectively. She has widely traveled to many countries through her work. And now, without further delay, I would request Madam to please deliver her talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Preeti. Now, as Preeti said correctly, without further delay, I would like to invite Dr. Neeta Thakkar, ma'am, to deliver her talk. Ma'am, please.
Okay, I'm audible to you. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Okay. Thank you, Preeti, for such a nice introduction. Good evening. Today's chief guest, Dr. Lal. Today, President Dr. Chandrachuran of the ESAS, Vice President Dr. Saran, Dr. Rajiv, and Dr. Bharti of the Nagpur chapter chairman, and all the present dignitaries and the participants who are attending today's webinar. Good evening to all of you. First of all, in fact, I would like to thank ESAS for giving me this opportunity to deliver this talk on environmental release and management of unintentionally produced persistent organic pollutant with respect to the India. And in fact, this is not my first participation in the ESAS forum. I have spoken many of the times earlier. My last talk was at one of the ESAS symposium which held at Goa in 2013. This particular topic I have selected because I worked in NEERI for preparing the National Implementation Plan, which was the country's commitment to the Stockholm Convention, and we worked in a team during 2009 to 2013, and still I am working on this as one of the expert member for the Stockholm Convention Center of NEERI Nagpur. So now with this brief, I would like to switch over to my talk. So are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, madam, you make it bigger, full screen.
Okay, this is
add on slide mode.
This is slide mode. Okay, so I will now start. This particular chemicals is of present interest because as all of you know, these chemicals are continuously releasing to the environment because of the rapid industrialization and because of the advanced mode of living. As you know, many chemicals are unwanted and causing lot of hazards to the human being on our environment. Lot of national, international agencies, and because of the many advanced countries are of course taking the precaution for a safe level management of these chemicals in India, and many treaties are nowadays signed to take care of the elimination and reduction of this sort of the pollutants. As such, Stockholm Convention and Rotterdam Convention with many of the countries have signed a treaty to how to eliminate and reduce the use of some such toxic pollutants like persistent organic pollutants, which are nothing but some of the pesticides or industrial chemicals many of the hazardous waste which are released in our environment, and burning of the fossil fuel, many of the waste. So these are the chemicals which are particularly released into the environment and cause lot of harm to our surroundings and directly to the human being. So Stockholm signed a treaty with nearly 156 or over the countries, and India and was such countries, in which we have taken care how we can ban, eliminate, and reduce the release of some such organic pollutants. So in this my present talk, I will especially focus on the chemicals which are unintentionally produced, that they are not specifically produced, but they are some of the time in industrial processes they are required, or sometimes they are produced because of the burning of the fossil fuel or some of the waste. When the temperature is uncontrolled during 250 to 450 degrees centigrade, they are released into the environment, and there are many human health serious effects because of this. So that's how this unintentionally produced persistent organic pollutants we have taken care. So I will now come to the next slide. During my talk, I am going to specifically talk about what is the significance of persistent organic pollutants and their sources. How do they come to our environment, and health effects on human being, environmental release of unintentional POPs, and then preparation. We have to prepare an emission inventory, and how do we have approach, methodology and quantitation, and Indian scenario, then elimination and reduction of POPs, and ultimately I will show you how the sampling sites we have collected, the sampling site and the laboratories we have used. So as I have said, unintentionally produced POPs, this is otherwise also known as a dioxin and furan. They are created inadvertently in industrial activities where chlorine-based compounds are exposed to high temperature from 250 to 450 centigrade in presence of organic material. They are highly stable against chemical and microbiological degradation, and therefore persistent, and because of this character only they are very much concerned to the human being. They are fat soluble and tend to bioaccumulate in tissues, lipid, and in the food chain. These factors increase their potential hazard to human and animals. In fact, when we have done this study, that time it was 12 chemicals only which were considered as a persistent organic pollutant. Now, after all, 10 were added, and presently it is 28. So such chemicals are there to look into it. And out of this 12, when we have done this study on National Implementation Plan on the persistent organic pollutants, it included 8 pesticides. One is the industrial chemicals, and 2 of the chemicals which belong to the industrial chemicals like PCBs, PCDD, and PCDF. This PCDD and PCDF belong to the unintentionally produced POPs. So rest I am not going to speak. So next. So now I will see background for the National Implementation Plan. As I have already told, POPs are chemical substances that persist in the environment, bioaccumulating, long-range transportation, and pose a risk to human health and the environment. They induce cancer, cause damage to the central and peripheral nervous system, immune system, disease, and endocrine disruptor. Due to the transboundary movement pattern of the POPs, it is not just a national but a regional as well as global issue. The Stockholm Convention was initiated in 2001 as a global treaty to protect human health and the environment from POPs, which became legal binding to May 17, 2004. And that time it was 151 countries signed and 176 were the parties. In fact, India also lately signed, and it was effective since 2006. In implementing the convention, countries has taken measures to eliminate or reduce the release of POPs into the environment. And now, in fact, what the measures were suggested with respect to the POPs were to develop inventories of sources and estimate the release, formulate strategies and action plan for the control of dioxin and furan. They are nothing but the UPOPs. Evaluate and contribute to relevant policies, laws, and promotional schemes. Next. नहीं हुआ. As this is particularly UPOPs, which is chemically known as polychlorinated dibenzopyridine and polychlorinated dibenzofuran. There are, this is nothing but the UPOPs. There are 210 such chemicals with these structures are existing, and out of that, this is 75 are PCDDs and 135 are the polychlorinated dibenzopyrafuran. This is the structure. And in fact, out of these two structures, this is the 2378 position. It's such position which causes its toxic character. So when we have analyzed and inventorization, so this is the 70 such chemicals we have focused, because only 17 of the 7 of the PCDDs and 10 of the PCDFs, they are the one which are more toxic. And in fact, the thing is that wherever the chlorine is lying at 2378 position, they are having the toxic character, and out of that, the most toxic is 2378 tetachlorodibenzopyridine. In fact, when we represent the toxicity and the total present of this, we convert all the 17 into the 2378 TCDD, and then the total presence of this chemical is represented in terms of the 2378 TCDD. So now it is the sources of the dioxin. What are the sources? In fact, these are the main which causes their release into the environment. It is incineration sources, combustion sources, then industrial sources, and reservoirs. So incineration, normally it is municipal waste, hospital waste, hazardous waste, sewage waste. When all these waste, they are burned at a temperature normally ranging from 250 to 450 degree, they definitely are going to release this sort of the chemicals. And then combustion process, which is very well takes place in many of the industries. Cement, clean, wood, diesel, coal-fired, crematoria also. We have analyzed the release of these chemicals in crematorias. Then industrial sources, pulp and paper mill, chemical manufacturing, metal industries. In fact, in pulp and paper mill, it is the chlorine which is used for the bleaching purposes are responsible. Chemical manufacturing, definitely many chlorine containing chemicals are produced. Metal industries, metals act as a catalyst in forming these chemicals. Then reservoirs, they are very much responsible. Biochemical processes, photocatalytic, forest fire, and accidental releases. Now, ultimate exposure, when these are released, ultimate who is affected, it is human. You see, these are the various sources, as I have told in my last slide. Pulp and paper mill, incinerators, background burning of the waste, pesticide, and all these, when they release dioxin, it either directly through air or through other routes, water, plankton, fish, they expose, the human being is exposed. So this is the how directly or indirectly human is definitely affected because of the release of this particular chemicals. So then these are the effects of dioxin. There are many very serious effects of this particular group of the chemicals. Oral exposure is considered as the most important pathway, according to about 90% of the total human exposure to dioxin. Dioxin contamination is usually associated with carcinogenic, reproductive, developmental, and immunological. They are very important, and definitely this is the reason these are given very much importance. Increased risk of severe skin lasers, hyperpigmentation, altered liver function, lipid metabolism. These are the some which are not cancerous, but these are also some other effect when someone is exposed to the dioxin. So this is one such example cost I have found in journals. The one opposition leader in Ukrainian, he was exposed with dioxin poisoning, and you see in 4 months there is a severe effect on his facial expression were observed, And there are many such things, as I have in my earlier slide, I have seen effect of dioxin on the human body. They cause chloric and pigmentation and many more reasons. This is one shot actually someone affected because of the dioxin and is shown here. So these are known cancerous effects. They cause acute high level or chronic persistent years, liver enzyme changes, higher in drinkers, reproductive changes. Many things are there which are because of the dioxin or caused to human being. So these are the labels. In fact, there are many countries have established the tolerable daily intake guidelines for dioxin. So this is Canada, Germany. Normally, our country there is no guideline, so we always follow the WHO guideline. That is 1 to 4 picogram. It is too low. Even rather, it has been extended to 1 picogram TEQ per kg body weight recently. This is the thing. Of course, we have only a guideline of the CPCB for incinerators emission release of the dioxin and furan, but not ADI. There is a guideline of CPCB only for stack emission release of the dioxin and furan. So this is before I go for the how we have done this inventorization and actual sample analysis. This is the when we have analyzed the dioxin emission in various industrial sources and through various matrices. So this was the by UNEP during the preparing the nation implementation plan. There was a UNEP toolkit who have guided us. That is the 9 are the major sources which affect the release of this dioxin and furan. So when we prepare the country's guideline, we have considered the 9 such sources and all the roots of the this matrices, environmental matrix were analyzed, and ultimately this is the one value which we have found on the secondary data basis. That is, it was the 8,656 release of dioxin and furan in our total country. That was gram toxic equivalent quotient per annum. This was the value we have reported in 2011 countrywide, that the whole 9 sources of this various processes, and through these matrices, this was the value. So this is, before I go to the detail, I have just given a picture that this was the value we have estimated. And this was, as I have already told, that ministry through Government of India, through ministry, has submitted the NIP in 2011. Aim was to comply with the obligation on parties set out on the Stockholm Convention. And in fact, the ultimate goal was to protect human health and environment. And as I have said, that time we have taken the situation of 12 POPs. In my present, I have only talking about the UPOPs. In fact, all the 12 POPs were considered and the detailed plan was given. So this, while working for the UPOPs, the work was very big, and it was the whole country were to look into the various sources which are contributing the release of this dioxin and furan. So, and we were to complete in a nearly 15 to 18 months period. The work was divided into 3 zones, and it was the central and western region, then southern region, and the northern. So NIRI, along with NIRI was assigned the coordination for all this work. So NIRI was the looking for the central and western side. CPCB, Center for Pollution Control Board, was looking into northern and eastern state, and southern was looked by NIST Trivandrum. So this is how during inventorization and sampling and analysis, we have carried out this work through the help of all this, and then we have proceeded. So this was how we have approached. We have done with the both ways. We have done the primary data collection as well as the secondary data collection, and compared the total value of the dioxin and furan release. So this we have done in the phase 1 and 2 phases. One is first convince the people and carried out the workshop. Then we formed a task group and chalked out a work plan. In the preparation activities, we have find out what is the in fact the size and the nature of dioxin issue in the country in the various states. Then we have conducted the training program, and like that, following this, we have collected the secondary data. So this was the how we have proceeded. We have identified the source and subsource. We have identified, then collected the information. What are the various processes, their size, their activity rate, whether they are using any pollution control equipments, whether they have a waste management system, what is the technology, how is the performance. Then ultimately we have collecting this, we have quantized the PCDDs and PCDFs. This was the inventorization, and the primary data collection goes the parallel. And then compilation of the inventory from all the sources in all the metrics, and then consulting simultaneously with the international and national experts whether how do we our value is going on. And this, like that, the NIP was prepared. And this was the formula in the inventorization we have used. Release rates are determined by annual mass flow rates expressed in terms of the TEQ of PCDD and PCDD release per year. And this was the formula we have used. Dioxin emission per year, their emission factor which was provided, and then multiplied by activity rate, which we have collected from all the sites, looking after their their processes they are following. And this is all the routes of the exposure, air, water, land, product, and residue we have collected. And then summation of that, we arrived the total in terms of the international TEQ per year of this whole dioxin and furan. So this is, as I have already shown, this is out of the, during sampling analysis, we have focused on the 17 of the dioxin and furan. These, the specialty I have focused is this: they have a very, very close structures, and their separation, sample processing, and their identification through the analytical technique was a very challenging job to the environmental. Because main thing concerned with this particular group of the chemical is that they are very, very toxic at low levels. So their identification and detection was a major challenge. Since I was working on this particular topic from very since 99, that's how this has come to me, and we started working on this as soon as it has come to the NEERI. So we have to use spatial sample processing technology for the 17 chemicals, and then normal GCMS was not helping for this. So we have to use at high resolution gas mass chromatography to separate out all the 70 in the samples of different matrices. So this is, as I have said, this is the, I have already shown this. This was the value based on the inventorization from the secondary database. And then primary sampling basis, we have around actually on the sample analysis of the various matrices, we arrived on this value. So this is estimated dioxin and furan releases versus based on the major emission factor. One value we have collected based on the secondary data from various industrial sources. That was the emission factor we have taken from the UNEP toolkit, and the value was come nearly 8,656 from 455 TEQ per annum. This was during 2009 and 10 we have arrived this value. And then later on, with the emission factors from the various sampling of the various sites, we have calculated actual emission factor, and then this was the value. So it was little higher, because the reason is that emission factor which the UNEP toolkit gave was the actual ideal condition. When actually, if you see it in the field, it is not light. Many of the air pollution control devices are not working, or they are not as per the desired norms. So that's how it was really 35% higher than whatever we have based on the inventorization. And one thing also I would like to do, this work particularly when we have done, it was the first time it was the national inventory was prepared. So this value whatever we have submitted was 40 to 60% close to the actual estimate, because many of the sources we were not able to approach because of the so many technical reasons. So it was not the actual real scenario. It was 40 to 60% close to the actual estimate of the dioxin release of the there in that time. So this was just giving an idea that our various processes are definitely contributing this particular release of the chemicals, and we have to take the measure for this. So that was my saying. So now if I come to the values, when we have considered the 9 various sources and see what are the contributing what. So this is annual emission of dioxin and furan, main source category. These are the 9 main sources which the UNEP toolkit has advised us that they are the major factor releasing the dioxin and furan in the environment. So this was the waste incineration was one, ferrous and non-ferrous industries were one, heat and power, production of mineral, transportation also causes, then uncontrolled combustion processes, many things unwantedly done, then production and use of chemicals and consumers, then miscellaneous and disposal landfill sites. So this is where we have found it is the waste incineration which causes the maximum contribution of this particular chemical. There are varieties of waste incineration where hazardous waste, then our municipal waste, medical waste. So they are the major contribution. And the second one comes to the metal and non-metal industry. That is this is the ferrous and non-ferrous, and the others have a little bit less. So this is the waste incineration which was to look into the things. Now I come in the subcategory of the waste incineration and metal and non-ferrous. So this was the ferrous was causing most, then other industries, secondary copper, iron and steel, and like others. And in waste incineration, it was the hazardous waste incineration was comparatively less than the waste incineration, and medical waste incineration contribution was also less. So other processes are also contributing, but their values were comparatively less than these are the major ones. So this is what that various processes do contribute, but our waste incineration and some metal industries are more releasing of this particular chemical. If you see in terms of the matrix wise, which is the major matrix which is having more contamination, that is we have seen the residue. That is the means whenever this it is spread out in the fields, then there in those fields we have found the higher concentration, and second was the air. So this is just air, land, water, product, 5 matrices we have analyzed, and we have found the total emission, of course this value, but in the residue it was found the maximum. So since incineration was of the major concern, and we have seen it is causing the major factor release, we have analyzed various types of the incinerators for their total amount they are releasing. And of course in the incinerators we have seen all the matrices, air surrounding the incinerators, then their water was not there because in incineration there was nothing released in water. Land was also only residue, means whatever left after burning anything, that one analyzed, and the total value was found as this much from the incinerator. When we have done that time, municipal waste incineration was not that much existing, so we couldn't find, but definitely they contribute. So if you compare, we have compared the various processes and see among that in terms of the number and their contribution. Of course, the incineration number was less, but the contribution was more. Similarly, metal industries, they have a more number, but their contribution comparative to incineration was less. And similarly, in others also, some are less in number, but the contribution are there. So this compare that whatever practices for various industries, where is the higher contribution and where this just give the sector-wise contribution. And as this is again the same thing, but the residue contribute more than the other matrices. When ultimately we want country-wise, so we have definitely seen which region contribute more. Definitely the larger industries of concern which will release the dioxin and furan were the central and western regions. So our studies indicated that the most contribution was from the central, that is the 73%, then the southern and the northern, which was almost equal. So this was our finding. So now, as I have said, that simultaneously we have collected the secondary data as well as a sampling analysis based studies we have carried out. So as I have told that 210 of these chemicals exist, and out of that 17 of the dioxin and furan are of the most toxic concern. So we have definitely analyzed from the samples what are the isomers which are mainly existing. So in our instrumentation analysis, we have seen it was the octa isomers, which is the most prominent and found in the samples. OCDD were found highest in all the samples of residue, fly ash and soil and wastewater samples. And its concentration was found nearly 48 nanogram per gram, the highest in soil samples. And similarly, again, we have also seen which how much is the value. So this was in the soil sample, we have found the higher OCDD, 48 nanogram per gram, and higher dioxin and furan levels in wastewater of the incinerator. It is because of, yeah, this is in many of the incinerators, scrubbers waters comes from the APC devices, though that makes the wastewater containing this dioxin and furan. And now that question comes in the end, why and where this dioxin and furan increased due to why? Many medical and hazardous waste incinerators that are poorly designed and are not operated well, unorganized steel and iron and steel foundries, fossil fuel and biomass-based power plants, uncontrolled open burning processes due to use of undisclosed fire-intensive materials in brick kiln, production and use of chlorine and chlorinated products, miscellaneous sources like drying of biomass, crematorium, dry cleaning, etc. And due to the many landfill leachates also are responsible for this dioxin and furan contamination. So in the end, during our studies, and still we are working over that, what are the things which we can do the management of UPOPs in our environment. You see, when we have done, there was no proper monitoring on UPOPs was going on. These were the new chemicals, not much were analysis facilities were available. So values which we have submitted is definitely should be continuously monitored, and one should know where we are, what is the status, current status in the country. So it should be a country continuously monitored. Capacity building is very effective, as I have said. They are toxic at a very, very low level. They are similar in structures. So there was lab facility, desired lab facility with highly sophisticated analytical instrument was suggested. So it is necessary for that. Management of UPOPs release at the identified hotspots. So continuous monitor so that the emission can be controlled. Development and upgradation of countries' regulation for the implementation of process control and release of UPOPs, because anything will be of no use unless, though we have the hazardous waste emission regulations, that is 0.1 nanogram per cubic meter of air by CPCB. So unless this will not be implemented properly, the release cannot be controlled. So that is regularly needed, that upgradation and strict measures for the release of these chemicals. Then there are BET and BAP techniques available. So we should use best available techniques and best environmental practices strategy for the elimination, reduction of UPOPs emission of our priority industrial sectors. So these are the things which still nowadays it is working, and accordingly, as through Stockholm Convention, the country is looking into this. So these are some of the lab facilities. Sampling was very tedious, especially the stack sampling. We were to go to nearly 25 to 50 meter height for the stack monitoring samples. This was one such photo for that. Then samples at the municipal waste sites, then flue gas, all these things required very special instruments, and for long time monitoring was desired. And samples were supposed to be treat at the site itself, and further processing was done. And this was one of the sites of the Udyog Mandal. Some, I think, NIST person has done this. And then thermal power plant, Kuradi, also this is one of the sampling sites. And ultimately, I would like to conclude that in my present talk, I have discussed about the status of environmental release of UPOPs. And annual release based on both primary and secondary data were found as 11,662.46 gram TEQ and 8,656.55 gram TEQ. And environmental release has been arrived based on the inventorization and sampling, both way we have gone. Measures were suggested for the management of UPOPs at the identified hotspots. Data will certainly helpful to strengthen the India's chemical management for the sustainable environment and to further protect the human health. Thank you so much for patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. If anybody is having any questions, they can post those questions in a chat box.
One question is there in chat box. This question is from the son Lyra. How everyone in his own level can help in reducing POPs?
I'm not getting properly.
It is written, ma'am, how everyone in his own level can help in reducing POPs.
How anyone
in his own level can help in reducing POPs.
I think the very you are talking with respect to which metrics?
Is Swayam Naira is there? Hello? Swayam? Swayam Naira?
Yes, sir.
Can you repeat?
Yes, sir.
Swayam, ask me a question.
Hello?
Ma'am, how everyone in his own level can help in reducing POPs?
Yeah, I think the very basic thing for in the formation of dioxin value is echoing. It is the double voice I am hearing.
I request all participants to kindly mute their mic.
Hello. Yeah.
Okay, madam,
you see, the very basic formation of dioxin and furan are the two things are required. If it is a chlorine-based chemical and burn at insufficient temperature, 250 to 450 degrees centigrade, this particular group of the chemical releases. So one of the best way to avoid the formation of this chemical is to burn at temperature above 800 degrees centigrade to 1200 degrees centigrade. They are the same. If we are even burning the waste, so that temperature minimize the release and they are not formed. So if you are talking about the burning of the waste, then this is the most thing. And the second, which you say, avoiding the chlorine chemicals, that also lead to the release of this particular formation of the dioxin and furan.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
One question. Hello.
Hello.
Ma'am, you told that in fats, dioxins are absorbed. In fats, body fats, dioxins are absorbed. Is there any method to determine or know the level of dioxins in fats?
Yeah, of course, there are the methods. We have a particular processing of the fats, and then they can definitely process in the laboratory, and after separating out, they can subject to the instrumental analysis, and we can do. We have done. Some people have done the fats and eggs and many of the milk products. They can very well analyze. There is no problem.
Achha.
You have to go the particular
Is it possible
sample.
to remove them then?
I cannot answer this, but because once the person has exposed to this, it is a persisting type of the nature. So may not be easy to remove it, because it is a, that's why it is persisting. That's a problem, and we have to look into that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Nita ma'am.
Hello. Yes, Dr. Pilla, please.
Yeah, Nita ma'am, that was an excellent talk on POPs. I would like to know whether if waste is incinerated at 800 degrees, more than 800 degrees, 1000 degrees, and if the flue gases are, when it is cooled, is there any possibility of the dioxins forming again? Do you have any? Can you have your comments on that?
You see, definitely there are. I'm getting into voices.
I request all participants to kindly mute their mic, please.
Okay, ma'am, you can start.
Yeah, I think your question was that can we minimize the dioxin and furan release from the incinerators after 800 degrees centigrade? This was the question, if I'm right. Who asked me the question? Please, is what the question? This was the question.
Yeah, see, suppose we are incinerating the waste at around 1000 degrees centigrade.
Yeah.
And when the flue gases, that will be cooled down. So when it is cooled down, maybe it may come to around this range, 400 degrees, 350, 400 degrees.
Yes.
Yeah. So is there any possibility of these dioxins formed again?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Because as soon as the temperature reaches to there, this is chlorine group of the chemicals have a tendency to really form the dioxin and furan. So it will be 800 to 1200 rather above is desired to be maintained, because as soon as the temperature goes down, there you are going to find certain amount of the dioxin and furan in those samples. So this is possible. And only thing is that it will be in a very, very small concentration, and its analysis causes definitely a challenge to the environment, because to the sampling itself is a very crucial. Flue gas sample at that particular moment, at that particular type. So we have a special equipment for the sampling of the flue gas at that particular point.
Thank you, ma'am. See, ma'am, there is one more question. As I understand, the analysis of dioxins and furans at the moment, there are not many laboratories in India who are undertaking this analysis. Maybe NIRI has facility, but not many other laboratories. So generally, sampling, after sampling, it is sent to even other countries for getting the analysis done.
No,
so is it not
exact position I may not be aware, but definitely NIST Trivandrum has, CPCB Delhi has developed the facility for that. These are the three I have certainly knowledge, but even then some private laboratories are there. They have developed this thing. Maybe one is in Hyderabad and some in Gujarat also. They have this facility for analyzing the dioxin and furan samples.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, there is one question. One question is from Supriya Nair, ma'am. She wants to ask that what is the concentration of dioxin in flue gas?
In
flue gas.
You see, concentration is normally nearly nanogram to picogram level, and separating them and measuring them, it's of course a challenge. So they are normally in very, very low levels. Very low. That's how large amount of the air is collected and then processed and analyzed. Normally low.
Hello, I am Chandrajodan here.
Yes, sir.
In your study, you must have addressed the problems of organized sectors, like the incinerators, the combustion activities, industry, all kind of things. But equal contribution or maybe more contribution from unorganized sources. You know, in our country, everybody throws plastics and things like that just around.
Yes.
Has there been any, when you are approaching as a national solution, this attending to this problem also is equally important. So have you?
Yes.
Yeah, have you thought about something or in that line?
Yeah. In fact, during my working over there, we could not do much on that because definitely it's nearly 40 to 50% contribution. I'm getting double voice. Echoing is there.
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. Yeah, please.
Okay. So its contribution is there, and that was not taken care when I worked on that.
Yeah.
But it has a contribution, and one should take care for that because it was very difficult to find out their information, like where those are burns.
Yeah. For example, in the Bombay, at Govandi, there is a huge dumping ground.
Yes.
It is supposed to be of the height of some 13-story building.
Yeah.
Accumulating all kind of waste, and there was an incidence of fire, and it was going in an uncontrolled manner for quite some time.
Yes.
So all kind of combustion products were spreading by air all over the area.
Yes.
So back of my mind, that kind of a issue is there when I ask the question.
Yes, I know. I think definitely it has a major contribution in that. When we have done the study, that was not properly taken care. But presently, this has been focused. But how they are doing, I have not much knowledge on it.
I think it will be, NEERI being a very prominent institution in our country, it may be a good idea to focus on this because of major pollution problem.
Yes, very right.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's for a very nice talk. Thank you very much. Thank you, and also for Dr. Sandhya Lal to be present with us and then grace the occasion. Thank you.
Ma'am, there is one more question from Supriya Nair, ma'am. She says, how do we collect flue gas?
You see, I have already said there are spatial samplers. Either stack samplers, we have other samplers, or for flue gas, we have passive samplers. So that is to be placed over there. I'm not getting properly voice.
May I request all participants to kindly please mute their mic, please.
Hello.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Madam, I am Professor Sriman Narayanan from Chennai.
Okay.
And when we look at the distribution, that where the waste is dominating somewhere around 60%, and the second source is the ferrous and non-ferrous system.
Yes.
So I think that is a puzzling factor, because if it is going to be mere dioxins and furans where we don't have any of the phenyl rings, okay, then there is a possibility for the formation of such compounds. But when we talk about the diphenyl furans and diphenyl benzenes, where we require the aromatic ring to be present in the source, if it is a waste, then that is fine. How do we account for the formation of diphenyl furans and dioxins from the ferrous and non-ferrous industry, where it is mostly related only to the metals?
You see, the main contribution is in their furnaces only. Whatever the scrap, because of the getting the high temperature. So there are the materials feed which is given into the, so in the furnaces at the stack emissions, it is normally found. It is not in their waste material. It is the furnace because of the feed which is given. When it is exposed at a high temperature, there are certain metals and some organic materials which tend to release their formation, and there are small concentration in the stack emissions. So that is the reason. It is the furnaces where it is released because of the material, scrap material, many of the materials which is given to have the high temperature.
Thank you, madam. And my second question is there any methodology that have been developed over the period for the removal of these products as pollutants? Because you have told that management, elimination, and reduction.
Yeah, definitely. There are methods, some adsorption methods, and some methods have been studied for minimize and absorbing these chemicals, which is in process and are carrying out, because they are not degraded easily. So they are methods in which it can be adsorbed and then further treated, and then the problems can be solved. So there are methods going on.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Madam?
Yes, sir. If anybody is having any question, they can ask or they can post it in a chat box.
No questions.
Well, I just want to say something.
Yes, sir.
Madam, first of all, your talk was excellent, and I must congratulate you. Then I just have a simple question.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Brahman sir has opened two windows. Since starting, it's echo is coming. Brahman sir, please can you verify?
Yeah. Okay.
Or mute yourself, sir.
Yes, sir.
I just had a simple question.
Please.
Echo is there.
Echo is there.
Yeah, madam.
Yes.
Even now, echo is there. Anyway.
No, sir. No, it's okay.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify one thing, that whether there is any bioremediation possible with bacillus and bacteria and all that.
In fact, so far, I have not read about the bioremediation. It may be there, maybe my knowledge may be incomplete.
Because I was just thinking that ferro and ferrous both are there. So generally ferrobacillus we use for oxidation of ferro to ferric. So I thought just it came to mind. That's all. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your very informative talk. If there are no questions, then we would like to move to next session, next part of this webinar, that is citation of certificate. And for that, I would like to invite Dr. R.V. Sheshrao, sir, for citation of certificate. Sir, please.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's my privilege to read out citations, Certificate of Excellence. Indian Society of Analytical Scientists, ISA's Nagpur chapter, and ISA's headquarters, along with the Chemistry Department, Shri Ramdev Baba College of Engineering and Management, Nagpur, in recognition of the outstanding research, is happy to confer the Certificate of Excellence on Mrs. Neeta Thacker. She delivered an insightful talk on management of unintentionally produced persistent organic pollutants (POPs) in India on April 3rd, 2021, during which she shared her immense insight, great expertise, and enriched knowledge about potential adverse impacts due to forever chemicals on human health and the environment from the perspective of Indian scenario. The talk in this national webinar synergized immensely with the objectives of ISAS in promoting excellence and relevance. Thank you, madam. Thank you for President sir and Raghav sir for this opportunity. Thank you very much. Over to madam.
Thank you for the honor. Thank you for the honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. Chandrachuran sir, President ISAS, to virtually hand over this certificate to Dr. Neeta Thacker ma'am. So please.
It's a very pleasant thing to do. As a president of ISAS, I am very happy having Dr. Mrs. Neeta Thacker delivering an excellent talk and then answering all the questions in a very competent manner. He is a very competent environmentalist. I am very happy to hand over this Certificate of Excellence to Dr. and Mrs. Neeta Thacker. Kindly accept it.
Thank you, sir. It's my proud privilege to receive from your hands. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Ravindra Gade sir, Professor, Chemistry Department, Postgraduate Teaching Department, RTMNU Nagpur, for vote of thanks. So please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Meenal. A very good evening to one and all. It gives me immense pleasure to propose a formal vote of thanks on the occasion of this national webinar organized by Indian Society of Analytical Scientists. In the very beginning, let me thank Dr. Chandrachuran, President ISAS, for his presence and presidential address in this national event. Your presence matters a lot for us, sir. Thank you very much. The chief guest, Dr. Sandhya Lal, Director IBM, Nagpur, has joined this event and honored us with her presence. Thank you very much, madam, once again. The person whom we have listened for 45 minutes and who has given a glimpse of not only her knowledge, but also her contribution in the field of this pesticide chemistry and especially POPs, Dr. Neeta Thacker. I personally know Dr. Thacker as a part of NIRI because I started my career in 1997 in NIRI. Madam might be remembering my face. That time it was a Basic Research and Training Division of NIRI under the headship of Dr. R.K. Sareen. Yes. And I was working with Dr. Pintu Saheb in the air quality monitoring team. Yeah, that time I have seen Madam working on pesticides, and that time she was working with, I think, cyanides, if I am not wrong. Some cyanide work was going on with Preeti Kaur was working that time as a research associate.
Yeah, very well.
So it is a long back. So thank you very much, madam, for delivering a beautiful lecture and really a wonderful one. Other people whose active involvement in the event made the event possible are Dr. Sheshrao, Dr. Kishore Puri, Dr. Namrata Chaudhary. Most importantly, the people who deserve most of the credit are Dr. Avinash Bharti, Dr. Meenal Joshi, who has compared the program in a nice fashion, Dr. Preeti Mangrulkar, and the entire team of this ISAS Nagpur chapter. In the end, the key person who leaves behind all the youngsters with his enthusiasm, Dr. Raghav Saran. Thank you very much, Saran sir, for initiating this activity in Nagpur. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your vote of thanks. And I just wish to announce that link for feedback is posted in a chat box. Kindly fill that link. And now with the permission of chair, I announces that the webinar is over. Thank you all for participating in this webinar, and I really thank all dignitaries for their immense presence in this webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. Neeta madam, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.